I wonder how many times my phone's going to go off this time.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for episode 14 of SEO Fight Club. We'll get through some boilerplate really quickly here. We are SEO Fight Club. If you want to learn about who we are and what we do, you can read about us at this URL. We won't bore you with those details today. Our co-host, Clint Butler, also runs the YouTube show SEO This Week. If you have not heard about SEO This Week, it is an awesome resource. He pours over hundreds of SEO articles, and he reduces it down to the 5 or 10 that matter most for the week. So it's a huge time saver. In the past, I would spend 20 hours a month poring over all these publications. And you can reclaim that massive block of time just by watching this show. So, Clint, what can people expect on SEO this week?
Well, a pretty good one. I brought since we covered the Brighton SEO slides last week, I found the videos for that. You can watch the videos. A good breakdown of the latest Webmaster Hangouts, and Matthew Woodward put out a Google Ranking Factors post, which is pretty good. Some testing fodder. And those raised or started some decent conversations between Ted and I on some of the applications or what some of that stuff means. So I think it was a good episode.
Very cool. So definitely check that out. Last call on our free Skype group. It's primarily a Quora and Pop support group, but we also go into other SEO topics. You can join it by visiting the link at the bottom of the page on Page Optimizer Pro. It's at the top of the page at SEO Tool Lab. And it really is the last call. We're right at about 450, and the Skype group maxes out, 550, and the Skype group maxes out at 599. So you'll want to get in on that. There's only about 30 or 40 more spots left. And at that point, the fear of missing out becomes actual scarcity. You'll have to wait for people to quit to get in. So last call on that. And this week's topic, Clint and Derek. And we're going to talk about dominating niches. Or niches, as Kyle likes to say.
I like the continental version of the word.
Yep. So let me get into how this episode came together. This all starts a year ago when I did this correlation study in 200 different markets for the combination of SEO agency and city state, or SEO agency and city country code. And I pulled 200 Quora reports for this niche. And at the URL above, at the bottom of that page, all 200 Quora reports are there. So you can go and check out that what I'm saying is in fact true. But what I noticed in these 200 Quora reports was that in 160 of them or so, Clint and Derek were directly competing. So Clint works for a national SEO agency, and Derek works for Cotton Grammar, so no secret there. And I would see these two dominating their markets. Clint would be number one in a lot of them. Derek would be number one in a lot of them. And over the months, I saw them flip-flopping. So they were, they have battleground markets. And then even more recently, I'd see these really aggressive, third-party SEOs that would come in and displace both of them. And so this show isn't about who's the best SEO, because clearly in this market, if you're the best, you probably won't be for long. But it's really about, holy crap, how the hell do you dominate 160 of the world's top 200 markets? That right there is SEO proof. So in my mind, that's the best SEO proof in the world. So I want to have a discussion. I think it's long overdue that we take two people that have gone toe to toe and say, how do you guys do it? What's the value of competing in a niche in this way? What's it cost? And, how could I do this for this other niche over here? What do you guys recommend? And that's what I'm hoping to get out of this show. Any thoughts, Kyle?
I love it. Let's do it.
Okay. So with that, let's get into some questions. So the first thing I'd like to ask is that each of you tell us a bit about your current roles in your respective businesses. What do you guys do in the companies that you work for? So Clint, we'll start with you.
Oh, okay. So I am the head of SEO for Over the Top SEO. It is a company owned by Guy Charette out of Israel. I manage, in the beginning, I managed the entire build out of that agency. And now I've stepped back in the head of SEO role, where I just work with our team, coming up with strategy, working with the clients. And primarily, I do the SEO for the OTT website and a couple of the internal projects. And my team does all the client work.
Derek?
Well, with Con's site there, it's mostly I just handle like all the the link building. If you notice, his on page is usually horrible. But it's kind of proof that sometimes we don't need on page. But usually it's mostly like strategy and making sure we can scale all the links and just take care of the little stuff like that. Like kind of keep it off his radar. He's more important to be up front, and I like to be the guy in the back of the kitchen. So, and then also I have there'll be like little EMDs or other sites and all over the place that you probably will never know. So, there's multiple ways of getting traffic out of there. So,
very cool. So do you guys actually tune these pages yourselves, or do you have teams of people, or do you outsource parts of this work?
For me, I pick the high traffic cities or the real important ones to me. So like Derek is kicking my ass in Los Angeles. So I'm focusing on Los Angeles, that kind of insight. I got like top 20 that I worry about. And then the rest of our pages are built using Quora. So we created templates. We optimized with Quora, and then we pushed it live on a couple cities, saw where it ranked, and if it worked, we pushed it live across the site. And that's how we did that. Because it's obviously, if you're looking at 160 locations, that's a full-time job in and of itself if you're looking just to rank those. So that process worked out best for me.
I'd like to say that we tuned them all, but honestly, a lot of these pages were built way before even like Quora was out, or or we knew ahead, right? So it's just like like this year there's been like a crazy change in the way we do on-page structure and everything else, right? So it was always been kind of like a throw and stick method, right? Throw everything up there as much as you can, see what sticks first, kind of work on that, and then tune those pages, add more links, and go from there. Because there's lots of pages that are ranking that we didn't even notice that were there, like SEO in Tokyo and stuff like that. Oh geez, we're in Tokyo, all right, cool. So that kind of stuff like that. But a lot of that stuff you don't have to manually tune. A lot of them is just cookie cutter. A lot of the top of the page is just going to be the same copy over and over again, and it used to just be ordering an article basically and just modifying it for the city. Recently a little bit more changes, making it a little bit more unique. It still works really well with the, like the kind of like the spinning and stuff like that. But I'm not sure about in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, right? So sometimes we just like to plan a little bit more for the future. So
when you started off, and I may have missed this because I clearly can't multitask and watch the YouTube and listen at the same time. Did you make a plan initially? We want to go after 20. Like, did you do it in like manageable chunks? Or like you said, you kind of just threw everything up. Like, what was that strategy like?
Well, Con decided the first time to go. He was living in St. Louis, right? So that's that was kind of he did this all on his own and stuff like that, and because it was his hometown, right? And so get there, and then you're like, well, if that was not that hard, let's go for some other cities, right? It was more of just kind of accidentally just going, oh, we should just keep building it and go bigger, 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 right? And honestly, that's the best way to do it. Like, if you're not growing like width-wise, like the actual number of pages going, usually you're just going to start dying, right? So, and then from there, it was just kind of like a throw and stick method. How many cities can we go for? How many? Before we don't even have any footer links or anything like that. All the pages are clearly isolated. They're pretty much orphans, right? And it was just basically backlinks, right? And trying to do things with the minimum effective dose. That's basically how it was done.
Clint, did you kind of handle that the same way? The idea of starting off with a few and then expanding from there. Did you have a big master plan to start with? And also, what do you think about that idea of having an expansion plan? Like, in the sense that you should always be growing. I think that was a pretty interesting point.
I think if you have the resources to expand now, then you should do it. Just go ahead and get it out of the way and get it over with. But if you've talked to Guy, if anyone who knows Guy, he does not do anything small. So it was, hey, I want to rank in all the cities in the planet. I was like, oh, geez, okay. So we had to come up with that right off the bat. I didn't get the opportunity. I would have done it like Derek and Cotton did. Started off in a couple cities, figured it out, and then scaled that over and over again. But we just did it Guy's way, and it worked out.
A good question just came in on this. As you're expanding out, what are your thoughts on duplicate city pages? The idea that you've got pretty much the same content on each of the city pages. Is that something that you guys do, or what do you guys feel about that?
It doesn't matter for me. Like, honestly, when it comes to duplicate content, it's going to be duplicate SERP results. It's going to be the most important, right? So if you have a different title and you're competing in a completely different search result, then duplicate results are not going to be an issue, right? Because main concern has always been the end user not wanting to see the same results over and over again, right? That's the different thing, right? But if you have a different city, those are completely different. That's a different audience than Los Angeles or New York, whatever like that. So it's going to be pretty much unique. And you're going to be changing the city name anyways in most of the stuff. So it's going to be a little bit more unique from there. And so that's like just the cookie cutter stuff. Usually, 25% of the page is going to be unique. That's about it.
Yeah, if that. Local, the rules of duplicate are completely different than national. So, and like Derek was hinting on, if you're getting localized search results, you have a unique page for that localized search result. So Google's letting you get away with it a lot better. Will they change it? I don't know. I guess it really depends on how many people kind of spam it out. But I know a lot of people making a lot of sites that are like the same thing with just city changes, and they're still ranking very well. So I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon.
The time that it does become an issue is where I see a lot of people doing this is like they try to target like San Francisco SEO, right? But then they have a second URL of San Francisco SEO expert or whatever like that. Yeah. And then those URLs are they're competing in the same SERPs a lot of the times, right? So, and then one will get filtered, right? So that's where duplicate content really comes in.
So I know Miami SEO is like a flagship term for Cotton. And I know that recently third parties have gone in there and disrupted the rankings. Have you ever considered the possibility of like you two collaborating to shore up these markets?
I'm also really against little punks on YouTube making videos and son of a bitch came on, man. That's what,
honestly, a lot of people I talk to Derek every once in a while, and we've never really considered that. It's kind of like I don't know. It sounds to me, I've never met him in person. I wish to get the opportunity, but it sounds to me that we're really a lot alike. We got voices ahead on top of us. He's got Cotton, I got Guy. Those people enjoy dealing with people, and we just like getting in the weeds. And I think us guys, the in the weeds guys, are really where the competition's at. Our heads, they talk a big game, but this is where the competition in the SEO world is at. And I don't know. I don't see us going after someone together, but passing our knowledge in between each other may result in something like that, where he's going one and two, and we start doing that dance again. So,
what about you, Derek? Would you ever consider a link exchange?
No.
Well, there you have it.
It's all friends. The last few surviving, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you guys touched upon the resources. This can't be all you do. This has to, in my mind, this is some small percentage of what your overall responsibilities are. How would you quantify what percentage of your time goes into these, 160 to 200 markets?
Hardly any.
Yeah. The initial build out was probably 3 or 4 days. And then after that, really, I spend maybe about an hour, 2 hours a day on OTT. And that's maybe working on a specific site, reverse engineering what other people are doing, trying to find link opportunities. But the rest of my time is all client work. So,
yeah, I don't really spend a whole much on there right now. Like we're always building links, just because you need to kind of like have a means, right? And otherwise, if they start falling down, then it's usually that's what happens. Like usually, Google really favors the people who are being aggressive and growing, and that's when usually get wiped out. So you have to kind of like refire up the engine a little bit more, and then it's sit back and let it sit there for a little bit again. But yeah, so like honestly, like I've done it. I've ranked for all maybe 40 other cities, all with different sites, different EMDs, different things. I've blown up many sites. It's all about testing. Honestly, that's what I love about the SEO playground. It's not really there for the money.
So why do your respective businesses compete in these markets? So it's amazing that you rank with so little investment of personal time, but what's the advantage in competing in a niche in this way?
well, for OTT, we're looking for clients, and the downside of an SEO agency is when you're trying to sell and compete at our level, the $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $10,000 client range. One, those clients don't want you sharing their stuff with other people. So now I don't have case studies work. And then two, it's easier if you have ranking proofs. Like, it's 160 cities. There's not a lot of people that are doing that. You found two. But that's a selling point. And if you don't have a selling point that sets you apart from that $300 SEO guy, you're going to have a hard time asking for more money that you're worth. So that's why we created those.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it's going to be the same thing where, the city SEO is not as big of a savior as a lot of people always thought. They're going to be like, oh, I just got to rank for my city, and then the client's just going to come flying in, right, and stuff like that. So honestly, it's a numbers game on that scale, right? You got to. There are some very profitable cities out there, and but 90% of them are just going to be like, well, I got a lead here and there and whatever like that, so you really got to crush it and just being able to have the visibility there. Second of all, it's the biggest closing point, right? It's we can do this. We did this for us. We can do this for you, like that. And honestly, most of the time now when you close clients, I use like niche case studies that are very specific to that client. But
a couple questions that have come in. What do you think of the quality of the leads that you get from these types of from pages? Tire kickers?
Well, the worst was with Cotton Grammar one is all the people are just coming in to test their forms and their SEO. It's like we're just testing, and they're like, all right, whatever. So I mean, there's going to be, it's going to be a numbers game, right? So every 100 leads, you might get one or two that's decent,
Really?
But yeah, and then I mean, everyone has a different qualification for what decent is, right? So $500 clients, those. I like to actually keep those, but put them into something else. Like, here we got digital push. We'll teach you how to rank your own website, and that's how you can, right? Otherwise, because honestly, those are the clients that most people just want to kick out of the door, but they still have value.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I think that's something that probably a good takeaway for the show right there is if you don't want to take those lower ones, create a training program and they can teach them themselves. So you're still a hero. So writing that down, I'm stealing it.
You could also think about that's an opportunity to partner with somebody. You might know somebody that is happy or has a system that's good for those types of clients, and if you can even just get a little bit of it.
Well, a lot of times there's like, you know, people just coming up, they're just doing they're just learning. They haven't even gotten clients yet, and there's lots of clients that, you know, they just don't want to take on. You know, I'm like, I'm not interested in Tony's Pizzeria and stuff like that. You know, so pass on.
Hey.
Sorry, Tony.
What do you guys think about? Is there a difference in quality or perhaps maybe even quantity if you're in the number 1 spot for this type of term versus, say, the number 3 or 4? Like, do you think there's anything to actually where you're positioned for a term like this?
I don't think so. I've always focused on the top 3. So top 1, top 2, and 3, and then CTR, and the rest, you know, CTR takes care of the rest of that. And I don't see a difference in lead quality. It's really what cities you're ranking in is where the lead quality, in my opinion, comes from. So like a low income area in Houston versus the Woodlands, for example, those are 2 very different leads, and the money that comes from those 2 different areas is significant. So I think that plays more of a part than, you know, doing what Derek and I did is great. We can show it off. Hancock can show it off. We can show it off. But if you want to do this smart, then find the high income areas and rank in those areas. That pays off even better for you. You'll get a higher quality lead, and you're not doing like Derek and I, where our sales guys are filtering through a whole bunch of garbage to get to the one dream client we want. So.
Yeah, well, exactly. There's like areas, like I have another site in like New York and stuff like that. Then I have a different one in Long Island, and Long Island has way better leads, even though it's smaller search volume, you know, and stuff like that. Same thing with like I know I've helped people rank in like Melbourne and stuff like that a long time ago, and they were getting quite a lot of crushed and like really good leads there. And then, but sometimes markets dry up. Sometimes it's you know, it just gets saturated, or just the local audience just wises up to it.
Simon in the chat had an interesting point, and instead of maybe going for SEO, going for like digital agency or marketing agency. So it's kind of like a more, not sexy, but more professional maybe. You know, you're not the SEO guy, but you're an agency, you're this big as a term, and getting less tire kickers or maybe higher quality leads.
Yeah, well, exactly. Because I mean, if you're optimizing for like expert, that's what a lot of people try to do and stuff. It's easier to rank for it, so you can get that proof, right? That you're like, oh, at least I'm the expert around this area. But the people that are generally searching for that term are going to be looking for someone cheap, right? They want a one-man show. They want someone who's going to be working, you know, just bring them on board, or they're going to be working for like $20 an hour kind of thing, right? An agency, if anyone's actually searching for that, agency it sounds expensive, right? It's right off the bat, you're going to have like a full-fledged team behind it. And so that's a really good way to go. Same thing with ad agencies. Some people don't even know they need SEO, and they just want to have digital marketing help, right? Same thing with I've converted a lot of people from Facebook ads and all that kind of stuff into SEO, and as just like an add-on, right? Because honestly, the people who are spending money on ads, those are the people I actually want. I don't want people who we're trying to be their last hope in hell and savior, right? So we want people who already have, you know, a $5,000, $10,000 ad spend budget, you know. So.
Plus, it also gives you another selling point. So they have
right.
ad spend.
Yeah, it goes back to like that old, like there's an old saying, like if you're trying to sell newspapers door to door, and you're going, you know, you're trying to go door to door, and you're going to all the people who don't get the newspaper, right? And you're just striking out, and you finally wise up, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go to the people who actually already get newspapers, right? Because they already have the Wall Street, they already have the New York Times, they already have everything else, right? So that's the better way to get.
Yeah. Well, my point was that you can go those clients that are looking for help with their PPC campaigns. When you do that, and then you're like, oh, by the way, I can save you some more money. Let's do SEO on top of this. We already know these are converting, so let's rank for them and stop spending money here. Let's go spend some money there. So.
Yeah, generally you're going to overall lower their cost of acquisition, right? So.
And you just made your life a lot easier. All your keyword research is done. They paid for it.
Yeah, your keyword research is done. They generally have a pretty good brand search already. They have some popularity just because they're already doing advertising. If the local clients aren't doing some kind of advertising, I find it very hard to rank them.
So if you had to give a minute or less primer to someone who wants to get started dominating a niche, let's say they're doing something, because I know, Derek, I know you're in other niches. You share with me your other niche websites all the time. So let's say it's another niche, like one of those other niches. What would be your 1 minute primer on how to dominate a niche?
Well, you got to know your competition. That's the biggest thing. And that's where most people just fall flat on their feet. Like they have no idea how fast, like an affiliate market I'm doing right now. My goal is, a $5 million exit strategy or something. Right. And to do that, I need to know exactly who's every single ball player. I need to know exactly how fast they're building links, exactly how fast they're posting. Are they actually, doing interlinking? Do they have brand search? I monitor everything. I track their organic traffics by month to see how fast they're growing, how fast if they got hit by the last update. If they did get hit by the last update, then at least I have something to go off of. I'm like, well, if they're doing this, like all 5 competitors got hit in the last update, and we went up. So obviously we're doing something good and they're doing something bad. I like to know that differences, right? So I don't have to fall into that same trap. But also it's just being able to know, if they're getting links from somewhere, I want to get links from there. Get rid of the crap, keep the best of all your competitors, right? And then usually you win, right? So, and for me, in affiliate, especially, it's publication is where we win, right? Like we're publishing, sometimes 30,000 words a week, right? So you got to know your market.
Awesome. Clint, how about you?
Yeah, I think it's the same. You have to, especially if you're going to niche down. If rehab, locksmith, whatever, you have to know what the hell is going on in that market. And then you also have to realize that that's going to change from city to city. So don't get too over ambitious right off the get-go. Start with a state or start with a bigger city and work your way at scale so you can learn the lessons and write those lessons down. And then when it's time to hit the national level, you can do it really fast. And you're not reinventing the wheel. You already know, like El Paso. I know how to rank for SEO agency in El Paso. Now I want to hit SEO agency Houston. This is what I did in El Paso. Do it in Houston. Where did I end up? Good. And now I have less work in the long run doing that. So. Derek sounds to me like Derek, what you're doing is using multiple domains and attacking them from that way, and I'm using authority sites. So
I know mine's authority site, but
okay. Yeah. So you're hitting that affiliate thing too, and I got out of it, and I want to get back into it. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah. No, mine last one started as kind of a case study, then I just and then I started just throwing tons of money at it, right? And mostly it's because I was ranking with many clients in the same space, and I know exactly what the value of everything is.
Yeah.
So my research was paid for.
Are you guys doing this with WordPress and plugins, or are you developing custom websites?
I start out in WordPress, and then I'm right now where I'm planning on doing more of custom CMS, just to kind of streamline things, the way people customize everything for the actual publishers and authors and stuff like that, so it's easier for them. We don't have as much resources being pulled, and you can just make the pages faster, right, by customizing everything. So
we're doing WordPress. That's just because honestly, we just got 2 good devs that any issue we run into they can fix in 5 minutes. So we just stick with that, and we have the systems in place to teach the clients how to use their sites, or I know how to use WordPress easier. It's just faster for me. So
yeah,
yeah,
it depends on which affiliate site too.
Yeah,
one of them is more of a robust. I make a very broad platform of like what pages get indexed, right? So it's kind of like an e-commerce directory kind of style, right? And that one we needed to do custom because I needed that visibility of keywords that most people like the discovery of keywords, like I think like Home Depot kind of size, so that it's very hard to do on WordPress.
So when you guys do SEO at this scale, like a lot of people don't realize that the scale of your mistakes gets that much more amplified.
What excluded? What was that?
What are some of the biggest mistakes you've made at SEO at this scale?
Jeez.
Well, you want me to go first?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much perfect. So,
honestly, like some of the biggest mistakes, or like if the advice I would give to someone going into like a big affiliate space, is it's just management of the company. You have to treat it like a company. It's not a toy. It's not a hobby anymore. It becomes like a real thing. Like I work with clients that they've started with like a little affiliate site, and now there is just 40 something employees, right? There's people coming in, they have like studios for YouTube and stuff like that, and we're doing the same thing, and it's becomes more of not how good of an SEO I am or anyone on my staff is like how well we can communicate as a team, how well can we have a publishing schedule, how we have to keep ahead of publishing. What's our outreach team doing? There's a lot of moving parts and everything, right? And it becomes more of a management issue, right?
Yeah, I think my biggest mistake, and it almost burned me out with OTT, was the same thing, was management and taking on ownership of too much stuff. So you got to be able to cut, sling, load on things that you want. If you're not any good at it, then get rid of it. Or two, if you're good enough to survive it, but you can find someone that's better, then do that. Like sales, I was doing sales for OTT at the same time. Kyle and Ted can attest, I'm not a people person whatsoever, so you can imagine how those phone calls go. So we got a sales guy. Know your strengths and hire to fill your weaknesses. And then the other big mistake that I was making is we're doing like everyone else does, is kind of go on the cheap. Let's go to India. Let's go to the Philippines. Let's go to wherever. And because those are where the cheap workers are. But when you pay cheap workers, you get cheap results, especially if your own personal standards are significantly higher than what theirs are. So we just stopped hiring people overseas. We got staff in India now, or in Israel now, and we got staff in the U.S. And we pay more, but it's easier, one, to communicate with them, and two, their standards are just as high as ours are. So I think that's probably my second biggest mistake, was hiring.
On the lines of setting budgets, like let's say you're going to take this knowledge that you have for this particular niche and you want to move that into another niche, how would you go about setting a budget for that, and maybe even setting like an income expectation? Like you probably know, okay, we've got this many cities, we're making about this much. Is it possible to extrapolate information and move it over? Or would it be kind of like, just like you started off at the beginning, kind of a crapshoot?
Well, I mean, especially in affiliate, it's a lot of the knowledge is going to be the same, like the strategy wise, like deployment of like the website, the pages, targeting, like one of the biggest things is like best terms, like the best blah, blah, blah for this, whatever. Right. And so the actual deployment and research and all that stuff is the same, but the main difference is the amount of money can be made off those pages, and that will completely, decide the budget, right? So like some markets, like mattresses and stuff like that, for example, have really high affiliate payouts, right? So ranking for those, I can go very, very deep into my pocket just to make that money, that term work, versus like hiking boots and stuff like that. We have a market over there that it's like the commission is like $20, right? And so to rank for those terms, the budget's not there, right? And you have to keep things a lot tighter. Another market, which is in the fitness space, which is exercise, like specifically, is very hard to make money in that one, because it's saturated. It's not even just saturated. It's there's not a lot of good affiliate programs. There's not a lot of good courses that you can promote and all of this stuff like that. A lot of people are more, into the glamour, following, certain people on Instagram and all that kind of stuff like that. And it's hard to make money on that stuff. It's a lot of, oh, we'll sponsor you for this, we'll do this, like that. And there's a lot of paid posts. Like, you have to like nickel and dime everything, like that's, the publishing model is very, very good, but it's also very hard. Right. So I've known like activist posts and stuff like that. I've worked with them and stuff. And just to get everything's measured down to like a CPM, like how much they're actually making per view. Right. Because that's how the game's won on that end. Right. So there's not a whole lot of affiliate programs and stuff like that. So.
And OTT is really on local. So from that perspective, if we're deciding we want to go after a niche one, we already know that there's a lot of money there. But if you're looking at a PPL thing, an easy thing to do is just go to find out what the cost per click is and then multiply that by 4. And then that's kind of what you can charge. And that's the beginning point of where you decide if that's worthwhile to you to actually get involved with it. And then cost is really just based off of, your knowledge and experience. You're going to get better at estimating how much it's going to cost. The more you do the work and the more you expand or narrow down. So, like Derek's doing multiple different markets in affiliate, and I'm doing multiple different markets in local. So he's got way more experience in knowing how much it's going to cost to make a rank an affiliate site than I do. And that just comes with time, experience, and patience. So I think that's the PPC thing. That's the way I do it when I want to get in started, or I want to figure out if I even want to invest the time in to do that. And then how much the website's going to cost, all that, because you already have that in your head. And then the rest of it's how much is going to cost to rank, and that's experience is going to teach you that.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is sometimes I test with PPC to see if a market's decent, or whatever, but I don't always get good results from that. It depends on what the audience we're targeting. Honestly, because sometimes like the higher tech stuff or the stuff that you're targeting, like say millennials or whatever like that, they understand the difference between organic and advertising, and we actually attract a different type of customer. People who click on organic aren't the same people who click on pay-per-click all the time, right? And so sometimes we get different data from that, right? But it is the fastest, cheapest, dirty way, or we build like a really cheap affiliate site and just rank it really, really fast, aggressively. And if it sticks, then we keep it and build it into like a bigger thing, whatever. But sometimes the best way to test it is you have to be in there at some kind of organic level, or target someone else's website. You get on an authority site that's local there and basically buy your way in there and just get a taste of what's going on there. So.
That PPC method for me, really the only part that really matters at the end of the day for me is impressions. So I want to see if my targeting, like if I'm searching, or if my client only wants to do Houston, but the search volume is let's say it's 14,000, and then I do a PPC campaign in Houston and only 3,000. That's a significant number that I need to know. So that's where that PPC would help me out. And I think my point to the cost per click is using that to help just kind of guide you. Then another way to do it is what was that? The Home Advisor's price list. That's another way to kind of figure it out. Those guys are pretty good, and they also have an affiliate program. That's how I use PPC in that manner. You can do it like that where you're talking about conversions, but to your point is that user is different too. So it's a different customer avatar than the guy or gal is going into organic. So that's a good point.
Yeah, well, I do feel like that any really good affiliate market or just market, you should be able to find a way to convert it in all types of marketing channels, right? Or maybe not pay-per-click all the time, but Facebook or whatever, Instagram and stuff like that. Otherwise, Facebook's not. I love Facebook. We spend tons of money on Facebook, so yep.
Awesome. So before we get into the final questions from the audience, I want to thank you both for, coming and doing this. I know that there was a little bit, tiny amount of apprehension about sitting down with a competitor on a public show and talking about competition. So if people want to learn more about you or contact you, what services does your company offer? Where can they learn about that? How can they reach you? Derek?
Well, I'm mostly known for Digital Push. You go on Facebook, just search for Digital Push. We do guest post services we do about 4,000 guest posts a month for different companies and stuff like that. And so we service a lot of the GMBs and all that kind of stuff. And that's where we're mostly known for. And Digital Planet is our free informational group. It's also on Facebook. We have webinars all the time. Ted's been on there many times. Kyle was on Assimilation, not Digital Push, but the Planet. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm mostly at.
Yeah, you can find me at overthetopseo.com, SEO Fight Club, SEO This Week, or if you want to speak and just hang out and chat in the Cora Pop Skype group as well.
Awesome. Kyle, are there any final questions from the group?
A couple. We touched on this a little bit, but some nuts and bolts. Do you feel that in local there's a certain percentage of on-page to off-page in terms of importance? Is there anything that strikes you that you've seen, either of you?
Importance for one, some markets are going to convert really well in maps, and some markets are going to convert a lot better in organic. And sometimes it's just the strategies are a little bit different for that, right? Like there's lots of times where I can test a market with just like one of those Google's, the business.sites, whatever like that. And we can get in the map pack and we can get a lot of that same data or impression data. And then we'll actually rank in organic, just doing that strategy. But so there's not a whole lot of the on page for maps is going to be a little bit more, local orientated, but it's still, you can push it either way. Otherwise it's, I don't know, Clint, what do you think?
For local, what I found the best for us is the best roadmap is to do your on page first, get that locked in, and then go into link building. Just because it is a little bit easier to rank in a local environment than it is in the national one. So, where Derek may have to send 1,000 links, I may only have to send 998, and then I can just do maintenance while he's still sending his 1,000. You know what I mean? So, to me, that's probably the best way in a local search setting is to get your on page right, get that settled out, and then hit it with the links as you go. So.
When you're making these plays, do either of you use GMBs?
Oh yeah. It's a lot of GMBs.
If you were making a strategy to go nationwide and looking at 50 cities, would you look at doing 50 GMBs?
Oh
yeah. It probably even hit sub-cities around there too. So, we've got clients that we're pushing, 300-400 GMBs too. So,
would either of you ever consider doing EMDs for this type of play?
EMDs, yeah. I love, especially maybe not SEO so much. Well, it still works. There's quite a few EMDs and stuff, but there's a lot more SEOs looking at everything, so you want to hide a little bit better. In storage and stuff like that, we do EMDs all the time, and then have kind of link all up to one main franchise.
Can you define EMD for the beginner, please?
It's usually an exact match domain name that is based on a commercial keyword already. So usually every single name, if DerekIwasiuk.com is an exact match name for my name, but it had no commercial value before I started it. Where most people, that's where the EMD comes from, is say SEO agency El Paso. It already had pre-existing commercial value, right? There's people searching for it, and the only reason to register that domain is to target that keyword specifically. That's the longest version I can say of that.
Thank you.
Honestly, if the EMD is available, you're kind of silly for not using it. Just understand that you have to be a little bit more careful when you're talking about optimization for it. But for the most part, if it's there, you should be using it.
For these types of techniques, do either of you use map stacks or Google Stacks or any other type of stack technique?
Yeah, digital push. We sell a lot of map stacking. So yeah, no, maps, like I presented like map stacking like what, 5 years ago, and that's like I ranked a website live on a webinar with for a local term, and it, like literally like 20 minutes later we were in the map hack, and since then we've all, like everyone's been using it, so still works really well.
That's not a bad technique on a webinar to get paid to.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, I did it and I didn't know it was going to work. Then I was like, oh, hey, look, it's ranking already. So,
Ta-da! I'm so smart.
Yeah.
All right, here's the last one. When you're doing these techniques, do you ever get sites stuck? Like, do things just they're going to be on page 2 and 3 and that's it, or do you feel like if you're doing it right, you're always going to or you're going to do, you know, basically this well, or do you just are there some cities that you're never going to rank in, or just for whatever reason?
Daily. Yeah. If you're not getting this something stuck, you're not doing it right and you're not challenging yourself. So I think if it was that easy, you know, it probably wouldn't be any fun for me anyway. So yeah, I get pages stuck on 2, 3, sometimes down in 40 all the time. So it's just, you know, it's something that happens, and to me, I kind of take it as a challenge. All right, F you Google, I'm going after this now. So
yeah, there's a lot of terms that have been stuck over and over again, and then you try something unique to get it unstuck, right? Right. Like I used to do like these things called like towers of power. I used to call them, right? Whenever I got stuck on like top of page 1, right, I just build like a really high authority, exact match anchor text on one page, and then link it to there. And then I would just blast the crap out of the second tier with not like spam or anything, but like used to be like safe and stuff like that, right? It just to trustful would just all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I'm stuck at 20, and then also whoop, you know. All right, so all that stuff still works a little bit, you know.
Sounds good. That's the last of the questions. Ted, I'll turn it back to you for the goodbyes.
Thank you. And again, guys, thank you for joining us. You know, the parting thought that I hope that you two will walk away with this is that, you know, maybe there is room for cooperation. Like if you both came together with
That's a terrible idea, because then they'll dominate everything. How are we supposed to compete?
Well, if they came together with just the list where they're open to co-marketing, these are the ones we're not doing well, let's get the ones you're not doing well, and where they agree, let's just co-market on those pages. You know, why not? You know, and it's a gray area. Technically, you're not buying links. It's a co-marketing agreement, and other companies do co-marketing. I don't know. I just think it would be a really cool case study to come back a year from now and review where cooperation gets you. But if you can't, you can't. I understand.
Well, I got a whole new domain we're putting up right now, so we can use some love on that side.
Again, thank you guys for you know, taking the time and having the guts to come out and sit down and talk about, you know, toe-to-toe competition. Not everybody is willing to do that, and so I really appreciate it. And you know, just want to remind everybody, last chance on the Skype group that is going to max out probably this week. And please subscribe. We need your subscriptions in order to enable features in YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed already, and please check out Digital Planet and Digital Push, was it?
Yeah.
And check out SEO This Week and Over the Top SEO. These guys are the real deal. It's very cool. Kyle?
Thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate your time. Fantastic.
Any final thoughts, you two?
That was fun. Hopefully you get to talk to Derek more.
And last word to you, Derek.
Yeah, I'm just gonna bow out, and I'm gonna go back to fighting with Clint.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, guys, and thanks again, everyone.
Take care.